you may remember this scene. Now, you've probably seen that movie or some scenes of it, some videos about it. It's called Limitless. It's a great movie. I really enjoyed it, especially the concept behind it, where the protagonist finds, or there's this lab that creates this pill, the limitless pill, where when you take it, you become limitless. You become super focused, your intelligence gets boosted out of this world, you become more charismatic. Essentially, every brain problem you could have, or every brain kind of achievement you want to have, it's given to you like that. A magic pill, if you will. And that is exactly what I have to give you today. Obviously, I'm joking, that shit doesn't exist. Otherwise, I would not share it with you. I would just keep it for myself. I'm kidding, obviously, but while this may not exist, I can give you the closest thing to it. Not in the sense that it's gonna make you superhuman and charismatic and all these things, but in the sense that can give you a much better life. Now, this is none other than Stoicism. What do I mean by that? I don't mean here that it's, if you don't know anything about Stoicism, it's not just about being, very stoic. I don't like how that word is used as just someone that's emotionless, someone that essentially is disconnected from life. That is not what Stoicism is. There's a lot of definitions going around, a lot of ways you could characterize Stoicism, but for me, it really boils down to doing the right thing, doing the correct action, regardless of how you feel. So it's not about rejecting emotions, it's not about suppressing emotions, it's about recognizing what you're feeling, understanding what you're feeling, but then still going ahead and doing the right thing at that moment. For example, let's say one day you're feeling super bad, super emotionally tired, you're sad, but you should go to the gym. Now, nowadays, a lot of people would say, no, maybe first you gotta focus on your mental health, first you gotta be more motivated, feel better. What Stoicism says, and what I'm saying here, is you can still feel bad, you can recognize that you're a human, some days you're gonna feel bad, depressed, overwhelmed, it's fine. You're human, happens. But regardless of that, you should feel all those things and still go to the gym. Maybe you're gonna have a shit workout, maybe it's gonna be horrible, you're just gonna be going through the motions, but that's still better than not going. Especially if you're someone right now that suffers a lot of these things, you're sad a lot of times, you're overwhelmed, you feel a lot of anxiety. What you must recognize is that for most people, I'm not claiming here to know the solution for everyone, but for most people, and this is what worked for me, is if right now you can do the hard things, the going to the gym, the reading, the studying, the building your business, all these, if you can do them right now, in the future, you're gonna feel much less of the bad feelings. Yeah, sometimes I still feel anxious, sometimes I still feel bad, but not nearly as much. And when I do, and that's the main thing here, when I do, I understand why I'm feeling that way. I understand why these things are happening. I understand there's nothing wrong with me by default, it's just a bad day. It happens. This becomes especially relevant when you look at the society we have nowadays, especially social media. Now, most people, you I'm sure are included in that, I'm sure I am, spend a lot of time on social media. Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. YouTube is not a social media, but I'll put it there as well. We spend a lot of time consuming content and seeing, and this is where the problem appears, we're seeing the highlights of other people's lives. Someone went on a vacation, you're seeing the best pic they took. Someone had a good workout, you're seeing them after the pump at the absolute highest that they can look. Lighting, pump, etc., etc. And because of these things, our view becomes distorted. We, in a lot of ways, start to assume that this is what our life should be at all times. We should always be with the pump, super happy, super motivated, looking at the best view all the time. But guess what? Life's not like that. Most of these people's lives that you see that post these things, most of their lives are not like that. A lot of everyone's lives is just sitting down in a chair looking at the computer. These are simply the highlights. And if you recognize that, then you also must recognize how important Stoicism is in someone's life. In a lot of ways, it's the antidote to deal with all this stimulus, all this, essentially this fear of missing out that we feel when we look at all these things. Because when this happens, and this is a very particular feeling that I feel becomes very relevant for the video, which is when you sense this fear of missing out and you're like, fuck, I should be there, I should be doing that, I should be doing these things, essentially you feel horrible. It's a feeling that really drives you to hate your life. And if you're not okay with accepting these emotions, then you're just going to be miserable. Now, Stoicism teaches us that it is okay to feel that. It is okay. Not only it's okay, it is necessary that you strive for goals, you strive for a better life, a life that potentially allows you to, drive these cars you see, you go to these places you see on Instagram, these beautiful beaches, all of these things. But above all, above the ambition, it teaches us that life is ups and downs. You can only feel good if you're gonna feel bad sometimes. And you must be okay with all of that. You must be in the present moment, be grateful for what you have, and never too dependent on feeling good, feeling bad, on nothing. Essentially, recognizing that what is happening right now is okay because it is part of nature. And so if this wasn't meant to happen to you, it couldn't. There's a beautiful quote by Marcus Aurelius I'm going to put here on the screen, which I think it really illustrates perfectly this that I'm trying to say. Now, this may all sound super nice, it makes sense, and it's cool, and you maybe even recognize the importance of it, but one thing is recognizing, another thing is changing. So how do you change the way you think? How do you change the way you perceive things, perceive feelings? How can you become okay with not being okay? How do you do that? Now, what I'm gonna suggest you do is what I call the 14 mind strengthening program or training program here. First of all, not saying everything is going to be solved in 14 days. Obviously, there's no magic pills, but this is going to get you on that journey of better understanding your mind, and more importantly, how to work with it, how to be okay with it. Now, for this, the first 7 days, what I recommend is bargaining with your mind. Now, when you look at these days, let's take a very easy example to understand. Let's say, like I was saying in the beginning, you have to go to the gym. You know you should, regardless of how you feel, you should go. But you don't feel so good. It's already a bit later in the day, you don't have energy, you feel a bit unmotivated, and there's a lot of excuses in your mind, just telling you, yeah, just do it tomorrow, we'll go on Saturday instead, we'll just push a day. A lot of these things, and a lot of times they seem reasonable. They seem that you should accept them. Now, what I want you to do next time, don't accept these excuses right away, these thoughts in your mind. And I know it may sound a bit crazy, but try to talk back to them. So when you start hearing, yeah, we should go next Saturday, we should, maybe not today, talk to your mind and try to bargain with it. So instead of just saying, yeah, let's not do it, go ahead and do like, okay, I understand mind, body, me. I understand you're tired. I understand it doesn't feel good today, but this is important. So how about we go now to the gym, we do this, and then after we can do whatever the fuck you want. We can go and play video games. We can go and watch YouTube. We can do all these things, but first let's just go to the gym, get that out of the way. Sounds reasonable? This you speaking to yourself, and it may sound a bit crazy, but a lot of times it's gonna work. A lot of times these thoughts, you don't need to run away from them. The best often is to confront them, and this is the beginning on how to confront them. So you can try this. Next time, especially in these horrible bad days, try to do this. And when you're bargaining here, don't be afraid to, in a lot of ways, just kind of lie to yourself. Be like, yeah, sure, we'll just go to the gym and we'll do just one set of bench press. That's it. And then we come home. Maybe the mind's gonna be like, okay, that's fine. But when you're there, then you can use the same tricks the mind uses on you on it. And I know it's you, the mind, it's everything's the same thing, but for the sake of example, let's keep going. When you're there, let's say you finish the set and the mind's like, okay, now we can go. Maybe you can say, but we're already here. Might as well just finish the workout, right? And then you're gonna have the YouTube, the video games after. Sounds good? And then likely you're gonna keep going and going and going. Now, for the first 7 days of this more intense program, this is what I suggest you do. Now, I know it's not ideal. I know this is not what you want to do forever, but it's a great starting point. After these 7 days, what you'll recognize, especially if you don't meditate, if it's not something you do regularly, you're gonna realize that you start separating yourself a bit more from the mind. Because previously to this, if you've never done it, your mind is you. It's like the thoughts that pop up, it's like you speaking. But when you start speaking back to it, logically, you kind of understand that if you're speaking to something, it cannot be you. It can be a part of you, it's still your mind, but it's like your hand is not you. It's a part of your body, it's a part of you, but it's not all of you. And the more this clicks, because it's not about logically understanding, it's about clicking, you emotionally understanding, the more this becomes apparent, the more you're going to be able to realize that you can not listen to the mind. And this is what you're going to do on after the 7 days. And I put here, 7 days because it sounds good. It's an easy way to kind of go about it, 14 days. But, you can also assess how it's working for you. Because what you're going to try after bargaining is essentially just being very straightforward with the mind. You're just going to tell the mind no. So let's say bad day, excuses are popping up like, oh, let's go Saturday, let's skip today. Now you're going to try, I understand you're tired. I understand you don't feel like it. I know you'd prefer to be playing video games, but this is very important to us. And just go ahead and indulging in these behaviors of entertainment is not good for us. So right now, I cannot listen to you. We're going to go to the gym. And you can say that to yourself. Now, it's going to be a bit harder, likely probably a bit more resistance, but you want to practice this because this is what's very crucial here to understand as well, is that if you listen to the excuses, or let me put it another way, if you only go when you're motivated, when your mind feels good, you can't forget that the same mind that is motivated and allows you to go then becomes the same mind that finds excuses for you not to go. So it's not reliable. You cannot be relying on this tool because it's a great tool to use, but it just cannot be relied upon for these short-term decisions. As such, the mind's very good to plan and to decide what's going to do beforehand, but when the moment comes, you must practice this ability to say no to it. To be like, no, we're not going to indulge in this right away. And what you'll start to realize, and this click will also start to happen, is that if you're able to get out of bed, get up and go to the gym, go do these things, after a little bit, let's say you're at the gym, after a little bit, you realize that it was all like negative placebo, because once you're there, you start feeling good, you start enjoying it, and you actually want to keep doing it. So the more you do this, the more you realize that these are just tricks of the mind. It's just resistance happening because it's natural for it to happen. As such, next time you feel bad, next time you feel down, first of all, remember, it is natural. It is part of what makes you human. It's the ability to feel this range of emotions, and nothing is wrong with you. Everything is perfectly fine. And kind of a side note here is that you feeling bad right now is what's going to allow you to feel good tomorrow or in a week or in the future. So be grateful for that as well. After that, after you realize this and you actually give some thought to this, I suggest you go over these 14 days. First of all, trying to bargain with the mind, understanding everything's fine with you, nothing is wrong, but sometimes you just gotta, do these bargainings here. Begin with that, and then at some point, I say here 7 days, go ahead and try to actually say no to it and be very stern with your mind and say, no, we're not doing that today. The more you do this, especially if you do these 14 days and then you keep going, what's going to start to happen is that you're going to become more disciplined because you can listen to the part of you that wants the good for you and not the part of you that just wants comfort and entertainment. With that said, I wish you the best of luck following through with this, and I'll see you on the next video. And make sure to drop a like and a comment. It really helps out as well. Thank you.